I had a introductory call with a gentleman who had lost over 200 pounds, right? For us British, Australian, wherever you are in the world that don't engage in pounds, that's like 80, 100 kilos, right? He did this by white knuckling a calorie counting app, right? And then after losing all this weight, he was stuck. What do I do? I don't want to count anymore. I've achieved my goal. And everything online, including the app, will just said, okay, we'll just trust your body, right? You've lost all the weight. Now just eat when you want, right? You're past this. And what happened next was he spiraled into complete uncontrollable binge eating. And over the last few months has been putting on all the weight he's lost. Not so much that he's put on 200 pounds, but he's putting on multiple dozens in the last few months. And this is the issue, right? This is the problem, is if we don't know how to give someone the freedom to intuitively eat before they have understood and learnt the skill of it, they're never going to be able to do that action, right? And I see this so commonly, right? I see it with coaches too. Coaches that are helping their clients lose weight, they do that brilliantly. They do it via a lot of accountability and calorie tracking, and then they say, oh, cool, you've achieved the goal. Do whatever you want, because the client doesn't want to count forever. And the coach ultimately knows that this client doesn't want to count forever. So how do we move them to this point of intuitive eating? And I have the answer for you. I know the answer. And I know it because that was my journey. I focus on weight loss and therefore binge eating for 10 years straight. And for the last 2 to 3 years, I've been helping people just like you, maybe who's watching this video, effectively lose and or maintain their weight whilst eliminating binge eating. And we do this by moving them through a period of time where they're not calorie counting, and they're moving toward intuition with food. Now, the first thing that I would do when someone joins my team is to move them away from a calorie counting app. But it's really important for that individual that they feel like they have a level of structure, because they're so used to tracking every single gram, understandably, and they don't want to lose that control. So what we do is we introduce something called portion-based eating. And this is how we reverse engineer calorie counting. So instead of focusing on numbers and calories and grams, we're focusing on simple food groups and portions of those food groups. Now, we have 4 particular food groups: protein, fiber, carbs, and fats. And ultimately, depending on the client's goal, and where they're at in that stage of life, those portions are going to be different. But in general, for most clients, we want to be making sure that we're having more protein and fiber portions over the course of the day and every single meal than we are carbohydrates and fats. That is because of the role that these properties of food groups play, which is more satiation. I can't say that word. More satiety. I'm trying to just say another word here. In comparison to carbs and fats. With that said, though, carbs and fats are essential macronutrients. We need them to survive as well. Don't necessarily need them to survive. Your body won't die if you don't have them. But it's very important, particularly for someone that struggles with their relationship with food, that they realize that no particular food group and or food for that matter is inaccessible, because that's the reality. You can eat anything in the world that you want. We're in such an opportunity where we can do that. Maybe certain foods, caviar, maybe you can't afford. I don't know. But where I'm going with this is we move them from calorie counting to portion-based eating. And that's an instant change, and that gives them a level of structure and a level of control where they're not tracking every single gram and every single calorie and weighing every single food they eat. And it takes a lot of mental weight away from things. We then, over the next few months, get them to a point where they move away from, journaling of this food, because that's what we're kind of doing over the first few weeks, is they're working with me and they're sending over like a food log and a food diary. And what that's doing is it's allowing me to understand, hey, is this person actually understanding portion-based eating, PBE, and are they actually able to apply it in their day to day as well? I'm reviewing, I'm giving feedback and advice and suggestions, etc. After a few weeks, then we then move them to be the coach, right? And instead of me reviewing their journals, I ask them to review it every single day. And they're almost asking themselves the question, well, hey, if George was here, if he was giving me some guidance in a reply, like what would his answer be right now? Again, that's helping them understand why they're doing what they're doing, and they're not necessarily putting all the onus on me. About 2 to 3 months after doing this, usually 2 months, sometimes 3 if the client needs it, everyone works at different speeds, we are going to a point of intuition with food. They no longer need to do the journals because it is habitual, right? They've been doing it for 8-10 weeks now. The habit has been developed. They can look at a food group and they, just like someone can look at a mince pie and be like, right, that's 200 calories, or like a carrot and be like, right, that's 20 calories. I can do that because I've spent years of calorie counting. Now they're doing this in a portion space, right? There's my 2 portions of protein. There's my 1 portion of carbohydrates, for example. And again, we have a visual way of doing that. Like with portion based eating, right? It's relevant to your hand size. Really intelligent, this. And what we're doing here is we're also equating it on a visual scale. And you're like, right, well, there's my palm of protein, there's my portion of protein there. And again, you're using it as your visual scale as well. And this is how I help people. Like, this is as simple as it is, and it's stupid simple. It is so easy to implement, and it is so consistent in its effectiveness. And I wish I learned it sooner. I wish I learned it sooner. I don't know why nobody knows about portion based eating, because everybody knows about calorie counting. But calorie counting sucks, right? It really does. And the goal is to get to this point where you're no longer needing to even worry about, what's in your food, but it does require that awareness, at the start to, be in line with that before you can then go, or hey, actually, like, I'm going to trust myself here, because I just had lunch. I didn't even think twice about like what was in it, but if I reflect back onto it, I know because I've built up the habits over the last few months and years that it was a high protein, high fiber meal that had a moderate amount of carbs and fats. It's as simple as that. And I have those 3 times a day. If you want the actual like structure for this, I created a document and I've linked it below, and you can request that at no cost to you. Literally, like there's a link. It's called like portion based eating link. You can get that sent over to you, and I hope you use it ultimately. If you struggle, if you want any advice on that, feel free to send me a message on Instagram. That's probably the best place to reach me. My @ is the same as YouTube, george.barnstable. And I guess too, like if you're looking for a bit of support with this in not just a capacity of your own, but you're looking for a bit of support deeper than that, coaching, etc., you can also click the link in the description below, a bit about working with me one-on-one, if that's what you want to do as well. Look, I will leave you with this. I will wish you an awesome morning, day, evening, night, wherever in the world you are. And yeah, see you in the next one.